things are happening now and the time is right. My dream actually is, I don't know whether I could call it a legacy. When I leave, I hope that there'll be Indigenous academics who take my place and who will be leading this area for research for Australia. So my name is Yasmina Sultan Bawa and I'm the Director, Centre for Nutrition and Food Sciences at the University of Queensland. So when I was in the communities, I realized that this huge potential. There's not only the plant resources and the biodiversity that is available, but then also the communities, how entrepreneurial they are, the ability to create businesses. And I really saw some family businesses as Indigenous enterprises that were working very well. And I thought, can I make more of these enterprises in Australia? When I started discussing this with them, there was a lot of positive feedback that I got. And then that made me realize that if we get a training center and we can build capacity, can we really serve the communities? So when I was invited by the Indigenous communities to come and work with them on Kakadu plum, there was no supply chain as such. So we were wondering, how do we harvest it? Because it's a wild harvested fruit. How do we get permission to harvest? How do the communities get trained? Capacity building. Those were the initial things that we had to address. To build this supply chain, it will be a different type of supply chain because we are not growing orchards of Kakadu plum. It's wild harvested. But it really fits in with the model of how communities can work. This supply chain can grow into a big supply chain by collecting from different communities. So if harvesting was happening in the Northern Territory, we had communities from Western Australia that joined in, they shared knowledge. So the ARC Training Centre for Uniquely Australian Foods is about training PhD students. The centre is represented by about 15 countries, students from all over the world. So the PhD students really contributed to different research questions that we were asking. Is there any difference in the geographical location in terms of quality? Is there any difference when you process the food? What happens to it when we consume it? What happens in our digestion? So I think we had about 6 or 7 PhD students who just looked at Kakadu plum. So unless you had the PhD students, you wouldn't have that kind of research. By the time the centre finished their Uniquely Australian Foods, I'm very happy to say that from harvesting right up to the markets, retail, it's completely Indigenous owned and led. And that could be a really good example for other native food crops. The leadership is taken by the communities and they have economic empowerment, and with that they will look after country, the social impact, the environmental impact, everything will follow. Communities are very proud that they own the whole supply chain, and we should be supporting that kind of research.
Hello, my name is Oren Barak, and I'm the co-founder and CEO at Renic. So Renic is a health and wellness company working with Indigenous communities and small farmers from all around Australia to source native medicinal plants and turning them into different health products. The first time I found out about uniquely Australian food was through our communities. It was actually Elder Bruno, which we are working very closely with from the Neo community, that told us about how amazing is the work with Yasmina and her team. And they really thought that we should connect. And this is how we've been introduced. My thought about the way that Uniquely Australian working with communities, from what we experience and working together, in one word, inspiring. They really care, they really have a strong will to create a positive and tangible positive impact within communities. And it's all done really respectfully. The biggest testimonial for that is all those amazing recommendations that we've been getting from communities that asked us to work together with the center and with Yasmina and her team. The reason I think that people should support what Professor Yasmina and her team doing is because sometimes it takes a different way of approaching things, more innovative way of doing things, even when the government is allocating resources. Look at NASA. For years, the government been giving a lot of resources and NASA couldn't get a rocket into space. Sometimes you need a different approach, very innovative, let's call it SpaceX, that's taking a different route and not only getting a rocket into space, but also getting it to land. So if we want to really create a change, I think supporting Professor Yasmina and her team is the best way to achieve that. And I think this is why we found such a great alignment, because it's really about how can we create the tomorrow that we all want.